Imagine being trapped inside your own body, unable to move, unable to speak, kept alive only by a glass breathing machine. Once, this man was powerful. A Nazi doctor who controlled life and pain. Now, he can't even lift a finger. A young man enters his house as a nurse, quiet and polite, always watching. At first, he takes care of him, cleans him, feeds him, keeps the machine running. But slowly the balance begins to change. The nurse starts controlling the room. The silence becomes heavier, and the past starts leaking into the present. Their connection is not accidental. There is history between them, something unfinished and disturbing. Our first movie, Agustí Villaronga's In a Glass Cage, is an unsettling descent into revenge, control, and hidden trauma, where the victim and the monster begin to change places. The film handles its subject matter with surgical coldness. The glass chamber becomes both prison and confessional. What disturbs is not the violence itself, but the way the film frames revenge as something that reproduces rather than resolves trauma. The victim becomes the nurse becomes the doctor. The cycle tightens. Spanish audiences stayed away. International distributors buried it. 2 years later, Michael Haneke made The Seventh Continent, his first feature. Before he became synonymous with intellectual brutality, before Funny Games or The White Ribbon, he made a film about an Austrian family who decides to dismantle their life.
Hast du dich blind gestellt? Du brauchst keine Angst haben, ich tue dir nichts bestimmt. Hast du dich blind gestellt?
Ja.
The film is built from rituals: car wash, breakfast, work, dinner. Haneke shoots it in fragments, close-ups of hands, objects, surfaces. You never see faces in full until it no longer matters. The family is successful, functional, ordinary. Then they withdraw their daughter from school, quit their jobs, and begin destroying everything they own: furniture, photographs, the aquarium. Haneke based it on a real incident reported in Austrian newspapers. A family had done exactly this: no note, no clear motive. The film replicates that void. Austrian critics called it punishing. It played in limited release and disappeared. Haneke continued making films. Jörg Buttgereit's Der Todesking followed in 1990. Buttgereit had already made Necromantic, which earned him a reputation for transgression. Der Todesking is quieter, more systematic. The structure is simple: 7 days, 7 suicides, each one different, each one inevitable. Between them, a corpse decomposes in time-lapse. The film progresses like a calendar no one wanted printed. There is no narrative thread, no character you follow, just individuals reaching the same conclusion through different corridors. A man records a video message and shoots himself. A woman overdoses in a hotel room. The film treats each death with documentary distance. Buttgereit was interested in the architecture of despair, how it builds, how it repeats. German authorities banned it. Distributors refused it. The few who saw it described the experience as numbing rather than shocking. That numbness was the point.
He had to be stabbed 5 times. In the end, he ran screaming with a knife in his belly and splattered blood all over our house.
Singapore Sling arrived the same year, directed by Nikos Nikolaidis, a Greek film shot in black and white that treats film noir as a language for psychosexual collapse. A detective searches for a missing woman. He ends up at a mansion occupied by a mother and daughter engaged in rituals that feel ancient and grotesque. Games, performances, violence as theater. Nikolaidis layers references. Laura, Greek tragedy, sakarmasoch. The detective becomes their prisoner, their toy, their victim. The film moves like fever logic. Scenes repeat with variations. The boundaries between fantasy and action dissolve. It was shot on location in a single house over several weeks. The actors committed fully. Too fully, some would say. The daughter is played with such unhinged intensity that the performance itself becomes disturbing. Singapore Sling played at festivals, won some attention, then vanished from distribution. Greek cinema had produced something too strange for export, too uncomfortable for nostalgia. It remains difficult to find. That difficulty feels intentional now. Jack Ketchum's novel The Girl Next Door was adapted in 2007 by Gregory M. Wilson. The film is set in 1958 suburban America. A teenage girl is left in the care of a neighbor after her parents die. The neighbor is friendly, maternal. Trusted by everyone on the block, she and her children begin torturing the girl in the basement, systematically, over weeks.
You want to think about one thing, girl. Well, two things, actually. First, it could be your little sister hanging here instead of you.
The film is based on the Sylvia Likens case, a real murder, a real basement, real neighbors who did nothing. Wilson does not sensationalize. He shoots the film in warm, nostalgic tones. The neighborhood looks safe. The house looks ordinary. That dissonance is the film's strategy. The horror is not that evil exists. The horror is that it existed in plain sight and was allowed to continue. The actress playing the girl reportedly found the role so traumatic she struggled to separate afterward. The film premiered quietly, reviewed tepidly, dismissed as torture porn by some, ignored by most. The few who recognized what it was doing understood why it would never find an audience. Some cruelties are too ordinary to be entertainment. Our sixth movie, Pascal Laugier's Martyrs, appeared in 2008. A woman escapes from captivity as a child, traumatized, silent, and unable to explain what really happened to her. Years later, she thinks she finally recognized the people who destroyed her life. A quiet suburban house, a normal-looking family. No one would ever suspect them. She returns with one goal, to confront the past, and she doesn't come alone. Her best friend follows her inside. At first, it feels like the nightmare is over, but something doesn't feel right. The house hides more than it shows. Strange details, locked spaces, a tension that keeps growing. What starts as revenge slowly turns into something much darker. The deeper they go, the harder it becomes to leave. And the truth waiting inside the walls is far worse than anyone expected. Martyrs' first half functions as revenge horror. Then the film pivots. It reveals an organization, a philosophy. The second half becomes something else entirely. Medical horror, philosophical violence. The film argues with itself about meaning and pain. Laugier committed completely. The actress endured physical and psychological strain that became part of the film's mythology. Practical effects, long takes, no relief. French audiences walked out. Festival screenings became infamous. Some critics called it profound. Others called it unwatchable. Both were correct. Martyrs became a reference point for extreme cinema. But it did not become popular. It became a boundary marker, a film used to measure tolerance rather than taste. And then there is Melancholy der Engel, Marion Dora, 2009, the film that barely exists, whispered about in forums, a film so extreme in its content that describing it feels complicit. 4 individuals gather at a remote house. What follows is a catalog of transgression presented with artistic pretension. Philosophy, poetry, and imagery designed to break every remaining taboo. Dora claims the film is about the nature of human corruption. Critics who have seen it describe it as unwatchable, not metaphorically, literally. The film includes real animal death, graphic sexuality, violence that crosses into the documentary. Actors whose involvement raises ethical questions. It exists in a space beyond critique, beyond cinema, some would argue. It circulates like evidence of what exactly remains unclear. Perhaps that is the point. Melancholy der Engel is less a film than a rumor, a testament to how far some artists will go when all boundaries are removed. It has no audience, only witnesses. These films share something beyond content. They share a refusal to comfort, to moralize cleanly, to let the viewer leave unchanged. And cinema, it turns out, prefers to remember the films that let us sleep afterward. Thank you for watching.